Hi, how you doing? I'm here in lovely Sedona, Arizona. Just getting off another suspension from Facebook for 30 days. I think that's like my sixth or seventh one in the last few months. They don't want people to know the truth. It's not because they're trying to hide what's going on to society. Yeah, that's it too. But the real reason is that they don't want you to discover who you really are. And when you break everything down, that's what it's all about. It's about the power of you. My favorite quote is from Max Spears, and Max said, "There have been many battles throughout human history, but there's only ever been one war. And that's the war of the oppressing consciousness trying to suppress the consciousness that wants to be free." So what I want to do is just talk to you a few minutes about you, about who you really are, and why all of this is going on to keep us in fear, to keep us in anxiety, and to keep us in a vibration of hopelessness. That's because you're a co-creator. And when you're vibrating below baseline, it's very hard to create anything. And when you're vibrating below baseline, this becomes energy or food for those entities, those people that are trying to keep you lower. So since you're a creator, you need to be above baseline in happiness, joy, bliss in order to change your reality. So I want to give you an idea of who you are. Now, your mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open, okay? So if this resonates with you, hang on to it. And if it doesn't, just let it go. But it's something that you really need to think about because we have been told massive lies throughout our history. Now, I have here blueberry muffin, okay? So this blueberry muffin has blueberries, flour, sugar, butter, and probably a whole bunch of other stuff. So if I take a piece of this muffin off of this that has the blueberries, flour, sugar, salt, butter in there, this piece here, does this contain the blueberries, the salt, the sugar, the flour, the same as this? Does this have the same ingredients as this? Well, yeah, of course. It's impossible not to have, right? Now, when you were born, people say that we were created in the image of God, or that we come from energy, or God, or source. And I think most of us can agree on that we came from one origin. Oops, just heard an accident. Sounded like a little fender bender. I'm sure they're okay. So that we come from one source, one energy. So if this is the case, I want you to consider this, okay? So let's think about what God is. If we were to describe this source, and I like to call him source, not God. Let's say that source is this blueberry muffin. So I think we can agree that source is omniscient, all-knowing, and that it is omnipotent, all-powerful, and that it is also filled with this great benevolent love. So let's just say source is omniscient, omnipotent, and full of this great benevolent love. Now if I rip a piece off of this muffin, so if this is source, and this is omniscient, omnipotent, and full of this great love, and I take a piece, then this piece has to be omniscient, omnipotent, and full of this great benevolent love, right? Just like the muffin itself, it's impossible not to be. And this is you. This is you in your multi-dimensional self before you came into this world. Now, when you came into this world, your mind was wiped and you were born into this human body. Then what happened is these veils of delusion and these veils of ignorance, the programming of your subconscious mind began when you were in your mother's womb. From your environment, basically from your environment, and you can break that down: religion, government, entertainment, all these different ways that your mind has been programmed. Because your conscious mind isn't developed until you're 5, 6, 7 years old. And your conscious mind has the ability to accept or reject information. So because you don't have that ability prior to that age, everything that goes into your subconscious mind forms your belief systems. And most people carry these beliefs with them through their entire life. Of course, there's other ways to form your beliefs through trauma and repetition and leaving the TV on all day. I mean, that will program your subconscious mind as well. But primarily, that's the way it's done. So these veils of delusion and these veils of ignorance are placed over us, and we kind of forget who we are. And some people enjoy life and they're having such a good time in life here that they don't realize also who they are. So one of the ways that we begin to think about who we are is we go through suffering in life. We go through hardship, adversity, and suffering. Because prior to us coming into this life, we knew we had a review of what we're going to face in this life. And because of our power, how powerful we are as multidimensional beings, we said, yeah, sure, we can handle that. So like, for example, for my case, I said, okay, Robert, this is what your life's going to be like down on Earth here. You're gonna grow up in a dysfunctional family. Your mother's going to try murdering you when you're 11. You're going to be a runaway and live on the streets, get involved in drugs and sexually abused. Your best friend and girlfriend's going to die in a car wreck that you were in. You're going to be homeless later in life with your former wife and your 4 small children. And I look at that and I say, okay, I can handle that. I can make it through that. So you come in this, we're born into this world, and then all of a sudden, you know, this material world is a lot stronger than we think it is, right? Even though we know how powerful we are coming into here, but we forget, we lose that connection. So when we start going through hardship, adversity, and suffering in our life, it's an idea. The idea is that we would start looking within and remembering who we are. In the 5,000-year Bhagavad Gita, they talk about suffering. And they say that when we start going through suffering, nobody questions why they go through suffering as to why. And the whole purpose of us going through suffering is to discover who we really are. And when we discover who we really are, we discover the purpose of life. So a lot of people are suffering right now is because they lost this connection with their higher self, with the Godhead within. Because we live in this world of duality, right, wrong, right, left, fire, water, male, female, duality. That's all we have. We only have 2 choices. And because we're multidimensional beings, it's kind of windy here, so because we're multidimensional beings, it's kind of like jamming a square peg in a round hole, right? Because our whole life we've been taught to conform and to go around society. And when we're in society, we forget who we are, and we can't remember, at least most of us. Some of us can, some remember when they were born into this world. But we need to make that connection, because we get lost in the perspective of this human world and we forget about our power. So one way to do this is to make that connection with your higher self. So if all we have is duality, what we need to do is we need to make that connection. And when we make that connection to that Godhead within, it kind of pulls us out of this reality, and then we can look at things through a higher perspective. At least this is what I've done, and it's helped me tremendously. And when you're able to do that, you understand that everything that's going on around you doesn't appear what it it's not really what it appears to be, okay? Yeah, people are dying, we have this COVID thing, but this isn't really the root of what's going on here. The root of what's going on is the subjugation and enslavement of humanity. And why do they want to do that? Well, because you're a powerful being, because you came from Source. And they want to keep you in a low vibration so that you don't realize this power. Why is it that in the placebo effect, people can heal themselves? Why is it that people can cure cancer by having spontaneous remission? Why is it some people can do telekinesis, telepathy, levitation, espousal, stigmata, and do all sorts of things with their life? If one person can do that, we all have the ability, we all have the power to do that. So why aren't we able to do that? Well, one of the reasons is that because we've been programmed to stay in a low vibration. In 2005, the National Science Foundation came out with an article, although controversial to some, it makes total sense. They said we have between 12 and 60,000 thoughts a day. And 80% of those thoughts are negative, and 95% of those thoughts are from the day before. Now, I think we could all agree that we all think negatively, or we all used to think negatively, but that's not even really the question here. What's even more stunning is that how did we get to think so negative? This is the question that we need to ask ourselves, right? So if we think everything's just been starting, 4 years ago, 20, 50, 60 years ago, you're mistaken. The subjugation of humanity has been going on for thousands of years. Some say up to 10,000 years, okay? So it's like a plan, it's like a long game plan to subjugate humanity. This isn't something that just started, it's been something that's been going on for thousands of years. So they don't want you to know who you are. They want to keep you in a lower vibration, because when you're a lower vibration, you can't use your power. And when you can't use your power, you can't change your reality. It's kind of like a plane going into a nosedive. It's very hard to pull out of, it's very hard to pull out of. And when we're like that in this lifetime, people get hopelessness, they get sad, they get anxiety, and many people, even the people that I've talked to, have had suicidal thoughts, and they wanted to kill themselves. And there's no reason for that. And the only reason why people want to think that way is because it's just a lack of understanding about who you really are. Okay? We all go through hardship, adversity, and suffering in our life. And it's not there because we're bad or we're unworthy, or we don't deserve to be happy. That's not it at all. It's there for you. You're a spiritual warrior. You're here in this life to overcome this stuff and to awaken to who you really are. And once you're awakened to who you really are, then you can share your experiences with other people to help them overcome their situation. And that's what it's all about. And at least that's what it's all about for me. And yesterday here in Sedona, I was hanging out with a couple friends, and it was just such a glorious day because the lady that we were hanging out with went through some tremendous abuse for a number of years, and like she had a huge breakthrough yesterday, and it was so awesome to be a part of that. And I just want to share this with all of you because I know there's a lot of you that are suffering out there, maybe not all the time, maybe question their own existence or your own worthiness, or if you can make it through what's going on. And I'm here to tell you from my experience, from what I've been through in my life and how I'm handling all this stuff. It's kind of easy for me. I kind of get a little frustrated with when I go in the store and they tell me to wear a mask, but for the most part, I understand what's going on. So knowledge is power. It's also very liberating when you begin to broaden your mind and look into different ways of what's really going on in the world. This will free you from the chains of the society. And I just want you to know that no matter what happens in your life, you'll never get any more than you can handle. So whatever you're going through right now in your life, you can handle it. So just hang in there and start to learn more about who you really are and about the power of you. Because this is really the truth of the matter, and this is what they don't want you to discover, is that it's the same thing that Jesus taught, which they took out, and they don't want you to know, is that Jesus didn't want people to worship him. He didn't want people to follow him. He taught people that the Godhead was within. He taught people to heal themselves. The people that want to control you and oppress you, they're the ones that took out these teachings. See, you're a very powerful being, and you can create your own reality by default or intention. So it's a matter of where you're focusing your thoughts. Take your thoughts, harness them like a horse, and direct them in the direction that you want to go. Only focus on the things that you want. And come from a place of love. Come from a place above baseline. That's all I really wanted to share with you, and I hope you're all doing well, and goodbye from beautiful Sedona.